WWE Raw coming off of a pretty good Clash at the Castle, but I do think they need a strong follow now. Money in the Bank is less than a month away. You got qualifying matches tonight. That should be fun. Lots of stakes, lots on the line. I just don't want these to be obvious squash matches. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh man, intense qualifying matchup here today. Jey Uso against Tozawa. Who's going to go to Money in the Bank? You know, like, the reason the King of the Ring was so fun is, like, you had real stakes and you had matches that could go either way once you got to a certain point. And so I think there's a lot of intrigue with that. And so I hope that that continues here. I am interested to see if Braun Breaker isn't in this and just keep that anger going as he gets ready for a feud with Dragunov after essentially killing off Ricochet the other day. But I do think that there is some intrigue around that. I'm interested to see Drew's promo as well and what direction they go with him, because like it felt like he was a babyface last Monday. He definitely felt like the babyface at Clash at the Castle. What is he now? Now that we are back, I guess not all the way stateside, because it's Toronto for Money in the Bank, but now that we're back here in North America, away from his home country, have we babyfaced Drew to the point where he is a lead babyface now and Punk ends up being the heel, or what comes out of this? So I will be interested to see what direction they go with him. And where do they go now? Like, I think you have the obvious that it is Drew against Punk at SummerSlam. Doing it at Money in the Bank doesn't make any sense. Do you just leave Drew off of Money in the Bank? Or is there someone who kind of gets in the way as a bit of a sacrificial lamb to get Drew a win, actually, and build him up now into this SummerSlam mega match? I'll be interested to see what direction they go about that. But it does feel like a bit of an awkward period right now. We know that Nia is going to be challenging for the Women's WWE Championship. We know that Gunther is going to be challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship. We know that it is going to be Drew against CM Punk. We presume we know that. And that's a couple of months away. You have a pay-per-view, or PLE, sorry, in less than a month. How are we building up to this now? How are we getting that excitement for it? And what are we doing here? Like, do we have another one-off for Priest as a title headliner? Or are the Money in the Bank matches enough to just, we don't need Priest's title on there? I personally want as many defenses as I can for Damian Priest on premium live events, make him feel like a big star. But again, if you just, oh wow, Tozawa's challenging for it, like, it needs to be someone who actually has some cachet and actually provide some intrigue into, oh, what are we going to do? What direction are they going to go? So that's something I want to see there. I think one of the big things from tonight is the likely crescendo of Gable against Otis. I think this is when we get the Creed brothers. I think this is when Gable is like, okay, enough is enough. It's, the losing you guys are costing me all these matches. I've gone out and got some real guys. And you get the heel turn for the Creed brothers, the heel turn for Ivy Nile, going up against Otis and Maxine Dupree and Tozawa. And man, Tozawa's taking a lot of hits in this one. But I think that's where we go for that. And Otis, it's going to feel like a big deal for Otis tonight. Long term, what is it going to be? We will see. But for right now, it's going to feel, I think, like a big deal. What's next for Sami Zayn? The IC title has been pretty strong. I think building a lot of this Gable frustration off of, I want the Intercontinental title, continues to keep that importance that we saw coming off of the Gunther run and the Sami Zayn title run that we've had. So now who is next for Sami Zayn, I think, is going to be interesting. And I'm also very intrigued tonight at the Liv Morgan Judgment Day advancing. Do we just pretend that we didn't see Finn snag that card key? Or do we acknowledge that these guys probably go on social media and watch the show and saw that Finn snagged that card key 7 days ago? So that is really interesting. It starts an intriguing week here in the world of pro wrestling, because you have the NXT Battle Royal, and the winner will face Trick Williams for the title at Heatwave. And so there is a lot of assumptions that TNA is going to be featured very heavily in this. So I'm really interested to see what this episode holds and how they are able to integrate that right now. We saw some NXT wrestlers showing up at Against All Odds. That's really fun too. And I'm happy that it's being eased in a little bit. I'm happy that it wasn't just like, oh, here's 8 wrestlers and it's an invasion. It's NXT versus TNA. What are we going to do? It's like the NWO all over again. Because that's something TNA, it basically felt like TNA every 6 months was trying to recreate the NWO with aces and eights, main event mafia. We have one faction that is leading all factions, and they are trying to take down the very fiber of this company. It felt like they did that a little bit too much. And I guess they have, they do have a faction now with the Scene, I think it is. I always forget what it's called. But they seem to be running shit right now on TNA. But I'm happy that it wasn't just, oh man, here's 8 NXT wrestlers and they've taken everything out. I'm happy that it's being eased in a little bit, but I want to see something crazy coming up on Tuesday. We did see something a little bit crazy in TNA, and that's the Hardys are back. It's back where Matt has done his best work for sure. Jeff Hardy is always going to be one of my favorites, and so getting him back there, I think it's fun as well. And like honestly, not to be a AEW hater, but I have more excitement right now about NXT than I do about AEW Forbidden Door. It's new, for sure it's new, right? Like we've never seen anything attached to WWE do something like this before. So the newness of it absolutely brings that intrigue, but New Japan has felt like a bit of a cool-off product for a little bit now. And a lot of the guys who would be coming over, like Naito against Moxley, it's like, well, I'm not going to the show, and I've seen them matches before. So that it isn't this like wild crossover thing. Like we've been getting these for a little bit now. So the newness of it has kind of worn off. And I think the CMLL talent coming in has been fun. I would like there to be, again, classic AEW criticism, I know, and I apologize, but I would like there to be more story around the CMLL guys other than, oh wow, aren't they crazy and Mexican? Here they are in an 8-man tag where there's a bunch of things and you don't really understand the rules. I would like there to be a little bit more around that, I think. One more thing. I saw the criticism this week of Will Ospreay against Rey Fenix. And it's a criticism we've had for forever, since, oddly enough, since Ospreay and Ricochet, where it's like, well, this is supposed to look like a fight, and these guys don't look like they're looking to win. They're just putting on a choreographed spot show. I'm sorry. That whole line of whatever is so infuriating. And yes, there are some who will believe the glory period of wrestling was actually the territory days, where men were men, and baby faces rode with baby faces, and the heels rode with heels, and never the two shall meet. And everyone believed it was real because we believed it was real, damn it. Hulk Hogan hulked up. You know, like Dusty Rhodes. And again, I am not taking anything away from any of these performers, but like Hulk Hogan hulked up, and he was the biggest star that wrestling has ever seen and brought it mainstream. Dusty Rhodes, one of the smartest minds in wrestling ever. If we're talking about this being a actual simulated combat, I have not seen a street fight in my life where some guy does 3 jabs and then does a shake, rattle, and roll and elbows a guy on top of the head. You know, like, there is a certain entertainment factor of this, and you can go on and on and on, right? Like Ric Flair doing the flop thing. Macho Man Randy Savage pointing up to the crowd as it's going along. Like, I'm not talking about Jake McGee doing whatever the hell. These are some of the best wrestlers of all time who did shit because it was entertaining. That's what this is. Like, why is... God, it's so frustrating because yes, it is not just the time where a 45-minute sleeper hold felt like a dramatic, exciting match. And like, no, it doesn't feel like it is an actual fist fight, but it's still part of the whole entertainment product. Like I feel like people who talk about these sorts of things just glamorized pro wrestling back in the day, and there were some, right? Like Arn Anderson was a no-nonsense whatever, right? Like you had guys who were like that, but there's always been playing to the crowd. There's always been things that have been done to bring a flourish to things and fancy up what is supposed to be simulated combat, essentially, right? That's not a bad thing. This is supposed to be entertaining. This isn't just supposed to be fake MMA, because then it sucks. We saw that at NXT Underground, and it was fine, but if that's all pro wrestling was, no one would watch it. So, no. does Will Ospreay doing a handstand out of a cutter and Phoenix doing the same thing, and then they do a couple flips and they do the superhero pose. Is that something you're going to see in a street fight for your life outside on Stephen Avenue here in Calgary next week? Probably not. But it was still entertaining as fuck, and you can still get caught up in the storylines with these performers. And so that whole old school mentality is just getting so old.